All right, my next guest has called this the apocalypse, and that crypto is the safe haven play right now. Joining me now is a tech mogul and crypto activist, John McAfee. He was also briefly a presidential candidate for the 2020 election. John, thank you so much for joining me today. First and foremost, I know you can't tell us where you are located, but what's the situation like where you are?
Well, it started. We visited friends in Spain the day before Spain went into lockdown. In Spain is the most severely locked down country in the planet. Their death rate is soaring. And so we were caught there for a week. We escaped after a week because who knows what will ever happen there. But you couldn't leave the house. If you left the house, you were arrested. The only reasons for leaving your home were going to a hospital or you have run out of food and need emergency food. That's it. No people, cars. You can't have two people in a car. If they find two people in a car going to the supermarket to buy food, you're going to get arrested. Um, Extraordinarily severe. A friend of mine was arrested for walking on the beach at 6 a.m. where no people were anywhere. So it was very serious.
John, you've been very vocal about how this quarantine will play havoc with the global economy. It already has here, and that it will approach hyperinflation soon. Now, other economists I've spoken to would argue that actually we're in a deflationary event. Make the argument for hyperinflation.
Okay. How could this be a deflationary event when the U.S. government alone, just one government out of all the world governments that are doing madness, just passed a $2 trillion write yourself a check bill? Where's that money coming from? It's going to be printed. You know this for a fact. Now you tell me what economic, social, cultural, religious conditions are necessary for this event to be deflationary, then I will eat my shoe right here and now.
So John, you've come out saying that you feel that Bitcoin, well, not Bitcoin, sorry, cryptocurrencies apart from Bitcoin,
yes,
are where you're seeking refuge right now. Tell us about what you're liking, which assets you like.
Well, there are really only two assets in the crypto space that are worth anything. Bitcoin is not one of them, by the way. It's a very volatile, old technology. It was the first, and it showed us the way. But that door that was opened by Bitcoin, that fertile field, has been sown with ideas that are unbelievable. We have things like privacy coins and smart contracts, all of them on the blockchain. We have distributed applications on the blockchain. I mean, it's some heavy stuff. But the only two that really will make any sense are privacy coins, things like Monero, for that give you total anonymity in your transactions, and they simply cannot be broken, and not unless quantum computers show up very quickly. They can't be broken. So using a privacy coin and a distributed exchange, one that can't be shut down, one that takes no information from you whatsoever in order to exchange data, will absolutely prevent governments or anybody from knowing what your financial business arrangements are. So I get paid in Monero only. I mean, if you want me to consult, to promote, advise, you better be able to pay me in Monero, else I'm not working for you. And everybody who works for me is paid in Monero. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you used to like Bitcoin back in the day, though. So what was it that made you want to break up with Bitcoin?
The newer coins are just so vastly superior. I mean, Bitcoin has no privacy. It has no smart contract capability, no distributed application capability. It is simply a blockchain of the most basic and rudimentary kind. And that's what we had for years until the altcoins started coming out. But no, the newer coins is vastly superior. They're faster, less transaction fees. Oh, and stable coins. I'm sorry, stable coins. Coins like DAI and SAI that never vary more than 1% from the US dollar. And you can get stable coins tied to anything you want, gold, you name it. So you don't have to get out of crypto anymore when it gets volatile, when you've done your business. Move everything into to DAI or SAI or other stable coins. Binance has a stable coin. When you've done a transaction, when I get paid in Monero, I immediately convert it into DAI. Not US dollars, not anything else, it's DAI. Now, the US dollar is going south, so I'm going to move to a stable coin based upon another asset class that I do not think will be affected by this emerging over the horizon, people. There's some bad stuff coming. I promise you. You cannot lock down the entire. This has never been done before. Where virtually the entire northern hemisphere has been locked down. People are inside their homes. What are we doing inside our homes? Are we producing the goods, the shoes, the shoelaces, the boats, the yachts that the super wealthy use? No, we're producing jack shit. Nothing. And do you think that a month of this is not going to create the worst kind of financial havoc? Then you need to move out of your mother's basement and smell the coffee.
You said you would move into other assets that you consider safe. What are your thoughts on gold, John? Do you like the metals? Do you like gold? Do you like silver?
No, not at all. I'm sorry. I mean, I know that that's the go-to, and it has been for over 50 years, 60, for investors. And it's sort of nonsense. Listen, I think the type of chaos that might be coming. Did you remember at the end of World War II where Germans, in order to buy a loaf of bread, carried wheelbarrows full of money for a loaf of bread? In fact, I have a photo of a 10 billion mark note, 10 billion marks. And at that time, the mark was virtually equivalent to the dollar. Now, you think, oh, no, we'll never reach the point in America where a loaf of bread is $10 billion. Well, wake the fuck up, people. I'm sorry, it's coming. And when that happened, what are you going to do with that South African rand for the Canadian whatever gold virgin you care for? When you want to buy a loaf of bread, you're going to scrape off a piece and weigh it? Oh, please, God, wake up. No, we have now a far safer and a far more powerful means of transacting financial data, financial activities with cryptocurrency. And it is not going to go south because you cannot inflate it and you cannot deflate it. Yes, it's volatile as hell. Some of them, like Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is 21 million coins. Never mathematically can it ever reach 21 million and one. Can't happen. And this is the same with virtually all cryptocurrencies. Cannot inflate them, cannot deflate them, cannot control them. And they are permissionless. You need no one's permission to use them. And they're trustless, meaning you do not need to know who it is you're doing business with, because the trust factor is built into the smart contracts, which are part of the blockchain.
There's a lot of concern now, and when you speak of the apocalypse happening now, John, is social rioting part of that equation? Could you see that happening in cities like New York City as the next phase?
Well, I like to take my cues from history, and history tells us one thing: society and social interactions and politeness and adherence to rules is a thin veneer over the human animal. And we are animals, I'm sorry. Yes, we love and we're compassionate, we're generous and caring, we have hopes and dreams. At the same exact time, we are greedy and envious and jealous. We are anxious and fearful. Now, you take that part away, then no, there's not going to be anything bad happening. But unfortunately, that part has been with the human species since the beginning of time. And every single catastrophe in which food or water or life giving supplies are in short supply, the human veneer breaks down. And that thin layer of culture, society, human interaction disappears. And you have a hungry animal in the streets. Now you tell me what might happen.
John, you threw your hat in the ring in the presidential election for 2020. Would you consider another run in politics?
I'm 74 years old. I'll be 78 in 4 years if I'm still with us.
Hey, that's young for presidents now.
Maybe. I ran in 2016 on the Libertarian banner. I came in third for the nomination. That was my first foray into politics. I'm running again, not to be president. Number one, I don't want to be. What a horrible job. And number two, it doesn't matter who the president is, in my humble opinion. Nothing changes when a president, when power shifts, when the Democrats take over, or the Republicans take, nothing changes. Has anything in your life ever changed because of a change in power in politics? No, it's a far more complex affair, people. I mean, you have things like the CIA, which advises presidents. No, that's just advice. Like in the Gulf War, when we advised President Bush to bomb Iraq into the Stone Age because they had nuclear weapons. Well, everybody in the world knew that Iraq did not have nuclear weapons, even the American people, except for the president and Congress, all of which are briefed by the CIA. Now, you tell me, in that situation, who has the power? The president was helpless. He had to bomb Iraq into the Stone Age, because he was told by the CIA they had nuclear weapons and were about to bomb London because they had missiles capable of reaching London. No, presidents have no power. And when they change power, nothing changes because there's a deeper state, the state that's like the CIA. They're lifetime employees. You don't quit the CIA. And while you're there, you study, you learn. There are people in the CIA who speak 35 languages fluently, and you have somebody who is a politician sitting in the chair of power. Do you know what the CIA calls them? Transients. Well, they are transients. And in truth, I would rather have the CIA run the country than a politician, because that's what is happening. No, I'm running for president so that I can say things like this, and one or two people might actually hear them.
I also wanted to ask you, John, before we wrap here, I really want to get your thoughts on, there's talk of finding a vaccine for COVID and using supercomputers to do so. What's your take on that?
Well, I think it is the greatest fraud ever perpetrated on humankind. I'm a mathematician. I'm sorry. I like numbers. Do you realize there's less than 100,000 people who have died from COVID? Less than 100,000 in a world of 7.8 billion people. Do you realize in that same period of time where these 100,000 died, 630,000 died from the flu. 1.1 million died from diarrhea. 237,000 committed suicide. And 6 million died from starvation in the same period. Do you understand, people, what nonsense is happening today? You are buying the mainstream.
A lot of people are making your argument. Look, I've had a lot of people come on this show making the exact same argument you're making.
No, it's just nothing. There is nothing happening. 100,000 people died. Why? Because we're small-brained people, and apparently the new math being taught in school does not include adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, because those who can do that will see the absurdity. They throw a number, 100,000. Donald Trump, 200,000 people are going to die in America. That sounds like a lot.
So how do you view it, John? Is it just a new virus that's emerged, like the flu, that's just going to end up killing a certain amount of people, and that's it? Move on?
It'll kill far less than the flu kills every year. The flu kills between 500,000 and 1 million people every year. Look it up on Google, people. You have it right at your fingertips. 500,000 people every year. Diarrhea kills 2.3 million every year. Starvation, 12 million every year. Do you realize that 100,000 people or 1 million is nothing? It is a drop in the bucket of our reality of threats. Why do we pick this one? Because the news, whether you guys got together behind some boardroom door or whatever, are sensationalizing it. And our politicians, who get their data from the news, just like I do, bought it hook, line, and sinker.
John, I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate you coming on. I know you're doing a lot of media interviews. I guess what made you decide to start talking again, and what inspired you
to start talking again?
Yeah.
Well, what inspired me was the fact that there was
self-isolation.
I will not go on CNN. I've been on CNN more times than I can count. Fox News, CNBC, RT, everybody. It's nonsense. The mainstream media does not transmit truth or facts. It just transmits whatever people want to buy, which is the eyeballs. What do people want to look at? When you're driving down the highway and you see, I don't know, on a porch, the grandmother baking apple pie. Do you have traffic jams? Do people stop and rubberneck and stare? No, but you get blood and gore, a massive traffic mix-up, and there's death and mayhem. We stop and look at that shit, don't we? That is the human animal people. And this is why news is so goddamn successful and so powerful and should be fucking shut down. Now, the podcasters like this, I get to talk to you. I've talked to you now for almost 15 minutes. Now, the longest I've ever been on mainstream media was CNN, and that was 21 minutes. And that's only because I was fucking with them. The rest of it is 3.5 minutes, right. 5. And you don't get to ramble, you don't get to explain the basis for whatever you're saying for the time. It's nonsense. But Janice told me you were a podcaster. It looks like a little bit more than that. I'm not sure I will do this again.
Definitely much more than a podcaster.
Yes.
But we have a huge audience, and I'm sure they'll appreciate hearing your thoughts, John. Maybe not the gold bug so much, but our crypto enthusiasts for sure. And I appreciate you taking the time. Wherever you are, stay safe.
Thank you.
And take care. And thank you for watching. We will have much more for you. So be sure to stay tuned to Kiko.com.